In this video, I'll be explaining the function and purpose of the following accidentals: sharps, flats, naturals, double sharps, and double flats. I will also be explaining what are semitones and tones, or half steps and whole steps, as they are also known. The first thing to clarify is where to place the accidentals on the stave. This note is A. If I wanted to change it to a sharp, I place the sharp symbol before it. It's never correct to put the accidental after the note. I appreciate that we may say sharp after the note name, such as A sharp, but it's the same as saying £12 or $12. The word pound or dollar comes after the value. If we wrote this, not only would it look odd, it would be wrong. The symbol, sharp or flat or natural, always comes first. You also need to ensure that the accidental sits neatly next to the note. This would be wrong. The flat symbol has been placed too high. Here, the sharp has been placed too low. The sharp has been written way too big here. It's very important that when writing accidentals, you are very clear which notes they are attached to. Make sure that the middle of the sharp or flat sits on the same line or in the same space as the note head, like this one. Key signatures are different to accidentals. A key signature like this ensures that all of the Fs and Cs in the piece are played as F sharps and C sharps. This is F sharp, so is this, and so is this. Accidentals, however, only last for a bar and only affect the line or space in which they sit. Therefore, here's a bar of music. Each of the notes are Bs. If I add a flat to the first note, it becomes B flat. The second note would also become B flat as it is in the same bar. There's no need to put another flat symbol. However, the final note stays a B. It does not become B flat as it does not sit on the same line or space as the accidental. Now, it's easy to forget this rule, so sometimes, but not always, a piece of music may put an accidental in brackets to remind you of the correct note to play. If I did want the second note to remain a B and not a B flat, this is where I would use a natural symbol. The natural symbol means cancel any previous accidental in the bar which may affect this note. So, just so we're certain on this rule, here's another piece of music. We'll go through each note one by one. The first note is C. The key signature doesn't affect the note and it has no accidentals attached to it. The second note is B. The natural symbol is cancelling the B flat from the key signature. The third note is a G. The next note is a B flat, not a B natural. Although there is an accidental on the second note, making it a B natural instead of B flat, because that accidental only affects the same line, this note is not affected. The next note is an A flat due to the key signature. The next note should be an E flat due to the key signature, but the natural symbol makes it E. This note is E flat due to the key signature. The accidental on the previous note does not affect this note because it is not sharing the same line or space. This is an F. And the final note is a B, not a B flat. The accidental on the B earlier in the bar will affect this note. To explain the definition of accidentals, you need to be absolutely clear about semitones and tones. Now, semitones and tones are also known as half steps and whole steps. Either term is correct, but for simplicity, I'm going to stick with semitones and tones for the rest of this video. To explain semitones and tones, we'll use a keyboard. Firstly, it's important to notice which notes are neighbours on the keyboard. For example, C is next to C sharp or D flat. C is not next to D. They may seem to be next to each other, but this note, C sharp, D flat, is between them. Just try and imagine the black notes extending all the way down to the bottom of the keyboard to work out which notes are neighbours. When notes are neighbours to each other, they are referred to as a semitone apart. So C to C sharp or D flat is a semitone. C sharp or D flat to D is also a semitone. E to F is also a semitone as there is no black note between them. So remember that notes have to be neighbours to be considered a semitone apart. If two notes are two semitones apart, we refer to them as a tone apart. Therefore, we could say that C is a tone away from D because there is one semitone from the C to the C sharp or D flat, and then another semitone from the C sharp or D flat to the D. So just one final example. How far is D sharp from F? Here's the D sharp. It's one semitone to E and then another semitone to F. As we've counted 2 semitones, the distance from D sharp to F, it could be described as a tone apart. So remember, a tone is made up of 2 semitones, whereas a semitone are 2 neighbouring, or adjacent is probably the better word, notes on the keyboard. Don't forget to carefully count those black notes when you are working out tones and semitones. It's really important to understand the purpose of semitones and tones, as accidentals are directly related to them. A sharp symbol raises a note by a semitone. In other words, you move up the keyboard by 1 semitone, and when I say up, I mean further up the keyboard towards the higher sounding notes in the direction of this arrow. So for example, here's C, and I've marked it on the keyboard as well. Putting a sharp symbol in front of it makes it C sharp, 1 semitone higher. A flat symbol lowers a note by a semitone. In other words, you move down the keyboard by 1 semitone, and when I say down, I mean further down the keyboard towards the lower sounding notes in the direction of this arrow. So here's D, and here it is on the keyboard. Putting a flat in front of the note makes it D flat, 1 semitone lower. You will have noticed that C sharp and D flat are exactly the same note on the piano. Now there's a very complicated reason for this, something which I won't go into in this video. However, just be aware that the note at the bottom of the screen is D flat. Even though it shares the same note on the keyboard, it is never correct to call it C sharp. Similarly, the second note is C sharp. It would never be correct to call it D flat. If you are interested, when a note has 2 or more names, it is called an enharmonic equivalent. So we can say that C sharp is the enharmonic equivalent of D flat. A quirk in music is the use of double sharps and double flats. Let's look at double sharps first. It looks like a little X. I've already said that a sharp raises a note by a semitone. Well, a double sharp raises a note by 2 semitones, or a tone if you prefer. So this is G, and here it is marked on the keyboard. If we place a double sharp next to the note G, it will be raised by 2 semitones and will be called G double sharp. Looking at the keyboard, we can see that by raising the G by 2 semitones takes us to A. Therefore, although the note is written G double sharp, you'd actually play an A. It's never correct to call it A. This note is G double sharp. But you could say that A is the enharmonic equivalent of G double sharp. Now you might be wondering what on earth the point of writing a G double sharp is. Why not just write an A? This is a very good question, but outside the scope of this video. If you haven't already done so, have a look at my videos on minor scales, which tackles this very issue. A double flat lowers a note by 2 semitones, or a tone. It looks like 2 flat symbols pushed close together. So this is B, and here it is marked on the keyboard. If we place a double flat symbol next to the B, it will be lowered by 2 semitones and will be called B double flat. Looking at the keyboard, we can see that by lowering the B by 2 semitones takes us to A. Therefore, although the note is written B double flat, you'd actually play an A. And remember, it's never correct to call this note A, the note is B double flat. Just like other accidentals we've looked at in this video, sharps, flats and naturals, double sharps and flats only apply for a bar and only affect the line or space in which they sit. Therefore, have a look at this bar, see if you can name all of the notes. Feel free to pause this video for as long as you need. I'll go through the answers in a moment. The first note is C. The key signature doesn't affect the note and it has no accidentals attached to it. The second note is B. The natural symbol is cancelling the B flat from the key signature. The third note is A double sharp. The next note is B flat. Although there is an accidental on the second note, making that note a B natural instead of B flat, because that accidental only affects the same line, this note is not affected. The next note is A flat due to the key signature. The previous double sharp on the A does not affect this note as it is not in the same space or sharing the same line. The next note is E double flat. This note is E flat due to the key signature. The accidental on the previous note does not affect this note because this is not sharing the same line or space. This is an F. And the final note is B, not B flat. The accidental on the B earlier in the bar will affect this note. I do hope that this video has been useful to you. Please do drop me a line if you'd like me to cover any other music theory topic, and thanks for watching.